Can't wait to see the show. So I'm glad you got to
scares the heck out of you. People just like freak out, especially.
I know he does a Christmas show, and but this is right around Thanksgiving and Halloween, so it's perfect for this.
You'd be scared if the headless horseman comes out.
Oh, that would be really scary.
Good evening, and welcome to the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow. My name is John Payne. I'm the sexton here on behalf of our congregation and our pastor, Reverend Jeff Gargano. Welcome to the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow. At this point, I would like to take a moment to introduce a man by whose very name was fated to play the organ here at the Old Dutch Church, Mr. Jim Keys.
Hear, hear.
And it is a duty and a privilege to introduce to you your silver-tongued storyteller, Mr. Jonathan Kruk.
Greetings and felicitations. Indeed, I am Jonathan Kruk, your storyteller, here on this atmospheric evening at no better place to tell this tale. Why, 'tis the setting of Washington Irving's classic. Now, this story was written way back in 1819, while Irving was homesick and living abroad in Great Britain. It included iconic characters who still manage to inspire and to haunt us today. And thus, it is my privilege and indeed a high honor to give to you the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Just over yon, the Picantico flows into the majestic Hudson River at the expansive and mysterious Tappan Zee. Now, upon arrival, Captain Henry Hudson proclaimed, "Ha! This is the Northwest Passage to Cathay!" It is also the place where ancient Dutch mariners would prudently shorten their sails and evoke, "Oh, St. Nicholas, save us from damn ghost imps. Don't let them sink us at Royal's End." Along the eastern shore of the Tappan Zee lies a community called Greenburg, and within there lies a quiet port town, known for the inveterate propensity of the farmers to linger in the taverns.
Hi, to your health.
Cheers! Thus, causing the good wives to give it the name of Tarrytown. Now, I can't vouch for the veracity of that. I'm just your humble teller of tales, here to tell you of a place nearby, a place of tranquility, of Sabbath day stillness, a place that the ancient Dutch inhabitants found there was a dreamy, drowsy influence in the air, thus causing them to give it the name of Sleepy Hollow. Now, some historians claim that a Wecqueesquake chieftain cast a spell upon these parts. 9, say others, it was a high German witch doctor who cast the spell. Where it was, the whole place is indeed under a dreamy, drowsy influence. Why, in just the time it took for you to gather into this church, you were put under that spell. Breathe in the gloomy air of Sleepy Hollow, and soon you'll be visited by the nightmare under 9 Gambles, who give you dreams you've never dreamed of. Next, you begin to hear music where there is none. You're not hearing music now, are you? You will also soon begin to sense the supernatural and understand Sleepy Hollow abounds with spirits of all kinds. Why, here are haunted homes and haunted barns, and yea, even haunted bridges. Why, just over yon, down the old Albany Post Road, in a place called Wildy Swamp, there stands a twisted tulip tree. And there, 'tis a spirit, the ghost of tragical Major John Andre, yea, invisible and moaning, but he wanders round and looks to put an icy hand upon ye. And above at Raven Rock, before storms, listen, and you will hear the voice of a woman calling. You may see her form passing by, grayish, forlorn, calling, my beloved, come to me. The voice waxing, waning in the wind, calling, my beloved, come to me. What? Are you jumping already? And I'm yet to tell you of the commander-in-chief of all powers of the air in Sleepy Hollow, an apparition of a headless goblin on back of a horse, gallivanting around these roads, and thus 'tis known as the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. Now, 'tis said, during a nameless battle in the American Revolution, boom! A Yankee cannonball carried away the head of a Hessian trooper. The good folk here from Sleepy Hollow, upon finding the body, brought it here and begged the dominie, oh, parson, please, might we bury this unfortunate wretch here in the graveyard? Headless, a Hessian, may not be a Christian. 'Twould be unchristian, though, to not bury him so. Yea, you may bury him, but without a head, no headstone. And thus the body was put to rest at what has now become a forgotten grave. But by the spells of Sleepy Hollow, this spirit rises up, and mounted on a goblin horse, it scours these roads, seeking its lost head. Good friends, understand, the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow seeks his head here in Greenburg, and gallops around seeking it down in White Plains, and yea, he looks for it in Pleasantville. He's also been known to go all the way to Yonkers to look for that head. He looks about for it in New Rochelle, and he's even been known to seek his head in Scarsdale. Now, there wandered into the gloom of Sleepy Hollow a Yankee from Connecticut. Oh, a worthy white if e'er there was one. A fellow most aptly named Ichabod Crane. He had green glassy eyes and jug ears. He was tall and exceedingly lank. Why, his hands dangled out of his sleeves for about a mile, and his feet, you could have used them as shovels. To see Ichabod Crane loping along the side of a hill here in Sleepy Hollow, coattails flapping about, you would look up and say, oh, look, a scarecrow escaped from his post. Someone would have to disabuse you and explain, now, that ain't no scarecrow. That's just our schoolmaster, Ichabod Crane. Well, though it paid a pittance, Crane had accepted the position in Sleepy Hollow of schoolmaster. So meager was his ration, why, he had to live for 2 weeks at a time in the homesteads of his students. Couldn't afford a house of his own, though they did build a rough-hewn schoolhouse for him over by the place where the Picantico washes into the Tappan Zee. And now, let me ask some of the lads over here, how would you feel if your teacher had to come and live in your house for 2 weeks at a time, dare I say you would not be able to get away with what you're getting away with now. And that is not doing your homework. You haven't done it, have you? Ah, well. Well, Ichabod Crane, living in the homesteads of the various folk in Sleepy Hollow, became a welcomed guest. You see, he was a veritable gazette of gossip. Why, folk would see, oh, Ichabod Crane, come and prithee tell, what are the neighbors doing? Oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. And he would wiggle his long snipe of a nose, which, when he turned to talk to you, put you in the presence of thinking, oh, the wind, it's blowing this way. Oh, no, it's going that way. Now, Ichabod was a fellow who did possess a fair degree of charm. Why, Saturdays, you'd find him wandering here through the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery with a whole bevy of farm lasses following, begging, oh, Ichabod, are you going to do that thing you do with the gravestones? Oh, please, Ichabod, would you give us one of them readings? Ichabod, ah. Unable to resist, Crane would oblige. Oh, here, my ladies, gather round. Listen to this one. Behold ye who pass me by. No, one day thou shalt be as I, worm-eaten and in the ground. Pray, thou shan't go farther down. Oh! Oh, Ichabod, you are so good at that. Ah! Indeed, he gained the admiration of all the young men, too, who looked on and marveled. Oh, that Ichabod Crane, he sure knows how to talk to girls. I just wish I could talk to girls at all. Now, take that same charming schoolmaster and put him inside his rough-hewn schoolhouse, and oh, he became a master martinet. You girls know what a martinet is, don't you? Well, soon you'll find out. Why, Ichabod Crane firmly believed in the old adage, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I tell you, there were no spoiled scholars in Ichabod Crane's schoolhouse. Imagine some little broad-bottomed, obstreperous little Dutch lad loitering along the flowery path to knowledge. You young care, come here at once. Huh? What, me, Master Crane? Oh, yes, you come over here right away. Oh, but what I do? What didn't you do? I am going to have to teach you a lesson for your sake and for the sake of thine parents. Now, come over here. Oh, no, Master Crane, prithee, not the lesson by the birch rod. Oh, yes, by the birch rod. Now, bend right over. Oh, no, Master Crane. And the poor little lad would be bent over the rail right in front of the entire schoolhouse. And then Crane would bring down that birch rod with a thwack. And the poor little tiger would go, ow! Thwack! Oh! Thwack! Eee! When the paddling was done, go back and you shall thank me for this lesson for the longest days that let ye live. And then when Crane turned around, the little lad would slip out the chapter book he had conveniently tucked into the back of his breeches for paddling protection. But when school was done, Ichabod Crane returned to his congenial self, playing games with the children like Nine Man Morris and Blind Man's Bluff. And then, as the sun began to sink over the Tappan Zee, Crane would bring out his favorite book, Cotton Mather's History of Witchcraft in Old New England. He would give a certain reading from this tome. Oh, children, listen to this passage. And then when the demons began to possess the young women, they trembled. Lips quivered, nostrils flared, and then they gave a guttural oh! Shriek! Ha 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 ha! Oh, Master Crane, you do that so good, the children would exclaim. But then, as the evening began to come on, Crane needed to find from among his students one whose mother was known to be a goodly cook. Excuse me, is your mother a good cook? Well, once he did find that good cooking family, he endeared himself to them, carrying wood or hauling up the water, taking a boisterous baby and bouncing it on his knee, all in an effort to gain an invite to dine. You see, though exceedingly lank, the schoolmaster was a huge feeder and could not provide for himself. And he wasn't above using flattery to get that invite, saying things like, "Oh, Dame Van Winkle, there's something you must know. Why, the sky is jealous of the blue in thine eyes. Ah. Oh, Ichabod Crane, you're so charming. Would you like to stay for dinner?" "Oh, I must refuse to turn down such a request." And then the poor farmer would come in after being out in the field, all famished. "Oh, good woman, I'm so hungry now. Prithee tell, what's for dinner?" "Ichabod Crane? Me Frau, you haven't invited the schoolmaster over again, have ye?" "Oh, he's so charming." "Charming? Why, he's a huge feeder. Why, he's got the dilating powers of an anaconda. Oh, Indeed. Put a roasted duck in front of Ichabod Crane, he'd down the whole thing. And he would slurp down a whole bowl of succotash and still have room for a doughty doughnut or three. See, Ichabod Crane enjoyed eating the way some men enjoy a fine drink. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, cheers to you.
No, cheers, yes, and but Ichabod's favorite part of the meal came when the dining was done, and out would come the long-stemmed pipes. The sputtering apples would be in the fire, for soon would follow the ghostly tales of Sleepy Hollow. Understand, no detail was too grotesque for Ichabod Crane's capacious swallow of a story. Oh, he would coo and hoot, and holler at every spooky twist and turn. Oh, tell me, please, tell me about Major Andre's spirit. Oh, though he was hanged across the Hudson River in Old Japan, he haunts here in Sleepy Hollow, down in Wildy Swamp, where they caught him. And what about the woman in white? Oh, she froze to death, poor thing, a bride awaiting her beloved. And now she does call around for him. Oh! And the headless horseman? Well, Ichabod Crane learned the headless horseman indeed will scour the countryside for his head. But some sages insist if he cannot find his own head, he looks around to find the head of another to drag back into his grave! And inevitably, it would have Ichabod shrieking and thus waking up the farmer who'd been snoozing through the whole storytelling. "Ichabod Crane, are you still here enjoying me hospitality? Here's your hat. What's your hurry? Good night, good night." "Oh, thank you. Is it that late?" And Crane would give a flourish of bows, and then he would hear, as he stood on the stoop, clunk, clunk, the double Dutch door shutting behind him. He faced a long walk back to the homestead where he'd be housed through the gloomy atmospherics of Sleepy Hollow. It's one thing to listen to ghostly tales told cozy round a fire with sputtering apples and long-stemmed pipes and good neighbors, or within the confines of a snug, venerable old church. But it's quite another thing when you step out into the Sleepy Hollow gloom, head filled with ghostly tales. Why, of nature to haunt, to conspire against the schoolmaster. He'd start to walk along and Is that a ghost call? A ghost call? Whippoorwill, whippoorwill. What was that? A goblin rise. It sounded like a goblin rise. Something fell on me. A witch's token. 'Twas the barred owl, the whippoorwill, an acorn. But even the crunching leaves beneath the schoolmaster's feet put him in the mind of a fright. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh no, crunch. There's some uncouth ghoul, crunch, stalking me. What's that? What's that? A headless horseman returning from a midnight scouring. It was just a flock of birds, but to Ichabod, 'twas an ill omen. To ward off these spirits, Schoolmaster Ichabod Crane practiced an ancient tradition, that of lifting one's voice in song. Yea, this will fright off those unearthly spirits. Ichabod would then sing, in Lincoln's sweetness long drawn out, may all ye spirits be cast out. Be gone, be gone. And folk in Sleepy Hollow often settled themselves to sleep, listening to the thin, quivering voice of Ichabod Crane passing by. Good friends, Ichabod Crane could have passed by a goodly life here in Sleepy Hollow, even with the abounding spirits, had he not been bewitched by a spirit more beguiling than any headless goblin. You see, Ichabod Crane had fallen under the spell of a coquettish woman. Now, let me ask some of the gentlemen here, are any of you under the spell of a coquettish woman? Some of you think you're not? Well, think about this. Isn't there a big game going on even as I'm speaking? And here you are, under that coquette's spell. Ichabod had fallen under the spell of one Katrina Van Tassel. She was 18, plump as a partridge, ripe and melting as one of her father's peaches, and ready for the picking, if you know what I mean. But I hope you kids don't know what I mean. Katrina was known not only for her beauty, but her bounty, her vast expectations. You see, her father was Baltus Van Tassel, the wealthiest farmer in all of Sleepy Hollow. But oft he said, "Now everyone listen, I'm not proud of my wealth, just presiding over it, until the day when my lone heir, my Katrina, marries. Then let them take care of all of this." And Ichabod thought, why not? Why not let this fall unto me? Oh, he thought all he needed to do was court Spark and marry Katrina, and everything here would be his. But he had this thought every time he passed by the Van Tassel estate. Why, he would go into a kind of reverie, and then he would see the apple trees out there, and they would even call to him, "Ichabod Crane, pick me, pick me." When he went by the wheat fields, they'd wave, and then turn into loaves of bread falling to his feet. And when he went by the Van Tassel duck pond, all the ducks were roasted, swimming in rivers of gravy. Quack, 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 right into his awaiting mouth. Quack, 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 quack. And he thought, Katrina. Yea, Katrina. She, however, was quite the coquette, who had earned the attention of many a man about in Sleepy Hollow. How? By wearing an ancient-style stomacher to give, how shall I say it, a kind of, uplift to her appeal. She was also known for sporting scandalously short petticoats to better reveal the most well-turned ankle in all of Sleepy Hollow. Now, Ichabod Crane perhaps would have taken a lesson from the bard who described the course to true love as being, oh, the course to true love did never run smooth. Indeed, Ichabod Crane's course to Katrina had been crossed by a burning, roaring, rollicking, roistering blade by the name of Abraham Van Brunt, who was Herculean in proportions, and double-jointed, and thus had been given the name of Brom Bones. Now, if ever there was fight or frolic here in Sleepy Hollow, Brom Bones would be in the thick of it, either stirring things up or settling the score. And late at night, you'd find him gallivanting around and on these roads, riding a swift horse, known as Daredevil. He'd have a whole gang of followers behind him, and sometimes they'd urge him on to create a little mischief for them. For example, they might be going by the homestead of a little old lady who was just there settling herself to sleep, you know, with her cup of tea on the table, her chamber pot under the bed, and then out goes the candle. She's under her sheets. And Brom Bones comes slipping by the window. He leans in. Listen to this one, my boys. Old woman, it's the headless horseman. I'm here for thine head. Oh, oh! And the little old lady would wake up. Oh, what was that? What was that? And then she'd hear, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Ha, ha, ha! We really got her, didn't we? Oh, it's you, Brom Bones. Fie upon you, frightening a little old lady. Oh, yes, she'd be cursing Brom at night. But the next morning, you'd find that same old lady down in the tavern in Tarrytown the next day saying, guess who came to visit me? You are going to be jealous. It was Brom Bones. Mm-hmm.
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up, I'll drink to that too. See, Brom Bones was filled with more mischief than any kind of malice. And he too had gone about courting Katrina, but his method was, shall we say, well, rather like the pawing of a bear. Brom Bones, you're so handy. Oh, I noticed a little laughter here. Have some of you ladies experienced the bear paw method of courtship? Well, Ichabod, however, felt he had the way to earn Katrina's hand in marriage. See, he had taken up the position here in this venerable old church of choir master. Sundays, you'd find him up there, leading the choir, singing, in linked sweetness long drawn out, thinking with his thin, reedy voice that he was carrying the palm away from the parson up there. When services were done, Ichabod Crane would escort Katrina Van Tassel, come along, Katrina, down to her homestead. And then, under the guise of, we'll have a singing lesson, he would go about courting her, sitting knee to knee with the heiress. And 'twas odd, Baltus Van Tassel would be right in the next room in the parlor, paying them no mind. Why, he paid more attention to his pipe than that scarecrow schoolmaster trying to spark up his daughter there. And Mrs. Van Tassel, she was the same. She would say things like, ducks and geese are foolish things. They need looking after. But my Katrina, she can take care of herself. Indeed. Ichabod would carry on. Now, Katrina, you sing after me. In linked sweetness long drawn out. Your turn, my dear. All right, Ichabod, how's this? In linked sweetness long drawn out. do you think? Oh, Katrina, I think it's a rhapsody. Oh, even the lark is going to be jealous of thee. Oh, Ichabod. Hey, let me tell you who was jealous. Brom Bones. Why, he had sat around for Sunday after Sunday watching this courtship until finally he couldn't bear it any longer. Ichabod Crane! Ichabod Crane! One Sunday, he calls him out. Oh, what is it, Mr. Van Brunt? I'll give you a Mr. Van Brunt. You get over here right now. We're going to settle this rivalry once and for all with a manly round of fisticuffs. Go ahead, put him up. Come on, put him up. Come on, what? You want to take the first shot? All right, go ahead. Plant her right there on my kisser. Then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to double you up and stick you on a shelf. Come on, come on. Well, Ichabod Crane knew enough then to engage Brom Bones in a round of fisticuffs. Gah! So Brom had to resort to other methods to try to drive off the schoolmaster. He tried to stuff up the chimney, but Ichabod wouldn't be smoked out. Another time, Brom had come into the schoolhouse early and set up a whole contrivance of booby traps. When Ichabod walked in, witches have held a coven here. But he would not be bewitched away. On another occasion, Brom trained a dog to bay in a most ludicrous way whenever Ichabod sang, "In linked sweetness long drawn, out!" Katrina, what was that? Oh, Ichabod, that was Brom Bones' dog. He's taken singing lessons too. Indeed, on and on went the rivalry. At length, things came to a head. And 'twas on a splendid autumn afternoon like the one we here enjoyed. Now, in the schoolhouse, there had just been some appalling display of the birch rod, and Ichabod sat up at his desk, presiding over a whole treasure trove of confiscated toys. Why, he had everything from the pop gun to the whirligig to Jacob's ladder, right here on the desk, when, as if coming from Mount Olympus, all clad in white like Mercury, there arrives a messenger. Greetings, felicitations. I bring you an invitation, Master Ichabod Crane. You are to attend a harvest frolic to be held tonight at the homestead of Baltus and Mrs. Van Tassel, who pray that thou shalt be there. Thank you, felicitations. And off went the fellow with his mission. At once, Ichabod Crane fell into a reverie. A frolic? Tonight? At Van Tassel's? Oh, I can go and court Katrina openly. Oh, I know she'll dance with me, and then she'll listen to my poetry, and Katrina will marry me, accepting my proposal, and all that she has will be ours. Oh, but I must ready myself. But what do I do about these pesky children? I know. Children! School's dismissed! Get out, all of you! Get out! Yay! And the children jump up and run willy-nilly out into the afternoon, tossing aside their slates and kicking over those benches. Now, Ichabod made his way back to the homestead where he was being housed, that of one Hans van Ripper. Now, he had to go about arranging himself as if he was a knight on a quest. He puts on his fine frock coat and gears himself up. He looks and then thinks, oh, I must practice some faces that I can use to charm Katrina. Let me see. And in front of a little looking glass, he goes, Katrina, ooh, And then when he thinks he's got the right expressions, he goes for his secret weapon. My ode to Katrina. When I read this to her, she'll fall in love with me. Ah. And with that tucked away into his pocket, the schoolmaster needed but one thing, a goodly steed. Mr. Hans von Ripper.
What is it, Ichabod Crane?
I am going a-courting at Van Tassel's, and thus should like to borrow your fine, fast horse.
Listen, Ichabod. Everyone in Sleepy Hollow gets invited to the Van Tassel's Harvest Frolic.
Why, I'm going with my whole family.
I'm gonna need that horse, to hold the wife and all the kids. I'm afraid we ain't got any room even for a scarecrow of a schoolmaster like you.
Oh, well, pray tell, however will I get there?
All right, tell you what I'm gonna do. Why don't you take Gunpowder out there?
Gunpowder? You mean that shaggy, sway-backed, hammer-headed, one-eyed mare? Why, that horse has outgrown everything except its own uselessness.
Well, that's the horse you gotta use. Ooh. All right, tell you what else. I'll let you use my good Sunday saddle, but you better bring it back.
And so with that, Ichabod Crane contented himself with riding upon Gunpowder. But with the stirrups on that saddle way too short for the schoolmaster's lanky legs, he looked more like a crooked cricket rather than a knight on an errand. And he wends his way down the old post road. Now autumn was showing her splendors. The reds bursting into vermilion, the yellows giving way to gold, the pumpkins turning their fair bellies up toward the sun, and all the birds a-twitter. And it seemed even the tapanzee cooperated with autumn, remaining smooth as glass, as if better to reflect the purple majesty of the Palisades. And Ichabod saw all of the families of his school children, all in their Sabbath day bests. Oh, look at you, Mrs. Van Bummel. Why, a bit of ribbon in your hair? Aren't we all citified in our fashions? And look at these young men, their buttons of brass stupendously polished. Oh, and all paraded down toward Van Tassel's for the frolic. Now Baltus had readied all for this event. He swept out his barn, which, might I tell you, was a place bigger than this old church. He set up tables, positively groaning with the bounty of his land. Why, there were every kind and cut of meat, and a whole cornucopia of vegetables, and then tables devoted to desserts. Oh, there were pies and puddings and preserves and olycokes and crumbling crullers and snickerdoodles and cookies, and yes, the doughty donut. And when everyone walked into this, they stood awestruck. It took Baltus Van Tassel to unstuck them by saying, "Well, fall to it and help yourselves." And Ichabod was the first. He downed an entire duck, a bowl of succotash, and then, while he was eating a doughty donut or three, he went into his reverie, thinking, soon I'll marry Katrina, and all this will belong to Brom Bones! Brom Bones is here! Oh, and yea, Brom Bones entered, riding right into the barn on his horse Daredevil. Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Everyone, now we'll have a real frolic. Brom Bones is here. Come on, Balty, let's give us a frolic there, eh? All right then, we'll do that. Where's my fiddler? Come out there, old man. And there comes out this doddering old fiddler, no doubt some runaway servant or slave. But this fellow puts up to his chin a battered violin, but when he touches the string with bow, he begins to pull notes from heaven on high down into the barn. And when he bows down, why, he wakes up music from down there too. And together it begins to create this melodic thing that caused all to want to dance, even farmers who had sworn to their wives.
Now listen, my good wife. When we get to Van Tassel's, understand this. I ain't dancing. Not one step. Not one step. Well, maybe 2 steps. Ha ha ha! And there they be dancing round, spinning like tops, little ones. But soon they had to give way. And why was that? Why, the schoolmaster himself was figuring right in the middle of it all. Clearly, he was of the school of dance that believed when you dance, there should remain no part of the body unmoved. Everyone looked on and said, is that the same schoolmaster who spanks our children? Why is he so merry? Why not? His partner was the beautiful and bounteous Katrina Van Tassel. Ah, Ichabod. Oh, you're such a good dancer. My, oh my. Tell me, Ichabod. Yes, Katrina? Would you fetch me some cider, please? Oh, of course, Katrina. Well, let me tell you, who took all this hard? Brom Bones. He sat sulking through the entire dance. See, he was one of these fellows who believed it unmanly to dance. But whilst Ichabod was sipping cider with Katrina, Brom Bones slips into the crowd to stir up the venerable veterans of the American Revolution, to get them to bring forth with their stories. Now, understand, Central Westchester here during the American Revolution was a no-man's land, overrun with redcoats and bluecoats and cowboys, skinners, and spies, and everyone had a story to tell. And by now, enough time had passed that, well, anyone could bring out their tale from those days, polish it up like some old chestnut, and no one would bother to question. So, Ron goes through and singles out a few there. Hey, Doffue, you know what tale to tell, the one about the cannon? Oh, and would you tell that story about your encounter with George Washington and Farmer Brower? You know how to scare him, don't you? And so, first up, a blue-bearded Dutchman by the name of Doffue Martling. Now listen, everyone. It was the summer of '76, and I'm down at the Tarrytown Tavern. We looks out into the Tappan Sea. What do we see? 2 British warships coming up the river with about 100 cannon each. Oh, people run off all scared. Not Doffue Martling here. I goes back and gets my 6-pounder. I load that cannon up. Floop, fsh, boom. I take down a sail. Again. Floop, fsh, boom. I bring down a mast. And again. Floop, fsh. Huh? Well, I would have blown up the whole fleet had my cannon not blowed up first. Well, very good story, says a certain distinguished gentleman. Now, Doffue, would you step out of the way, please, because I have got to tell all of you about my encounter at the Battle of White Plains. Now, there I was, aide-de-camp to His Excellency, General George Washington. He's looking out over his troops when I perceive it. A bullet is burning directly toward the good general's nose. I step in front of the general, putting myself between harm and His Excellency. And when the bullet draws near, I drew my sword, and then with that bullet, I did parry. Shaw! And I dashed that bullet away, thus saving the general's pleasant profile. And the American Revolution. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, why don't you come and look at the mark that bullet left on my sword's hilt? Now understand, in Sleepy Hollow, when tales are told, 'tis inevitable, ghostly tales. Rise up. A dairyman steps up. Oh, talking about this revolution. The other morning I was down in Wildy Swamp, beneath that tulip tree. I heard a kind of moaning. And then, right on my hand, I could feel it. The icy, invisible fingers. Major John Andre's spirit. I tell you, feels like that ghost hand is right there. Oh, I know what you mean, says the alewife. Now, I had gone up to gather wood by Raven Rock before that storm. Oh, and then I see passing by this diaphanous form, and I hear her saying, "My beloved, are you coming?" Oh, it made me heart jump and fill with pity, seeing that spirit. A few more tales rose up, and then someone had the audacity to doubt. "The Headless Horseman, though, he ain't around here anymore, is he? The Headless..." Shh, hush! Don't ever say that about the Headless Horseman. Oh, he's right. You doubt a ghost here in Sleepy Hollow, especially the Headless Horseman. That ghost will make a point of coming to haunt you. Yeah, that's what happened to Farmer Brower. Yeah, Brower, where are you? Why don't you come up and tell? Oh, all right then, I suppose. Well, I was a heretical disbeliever in ghosts. Now, one evening, I'd gone down to the Tarrytown Tavern, but I tell you, I only had a couple to drink, not as much as you usually do. Just a couple. So, I had my drink, and then I gets on my horse, and I'm riding up the post road. Over my shoulder, ba-rum, 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 I hear so I pull over to let the other rider pass, and oh, he comes by with a midnight blast. Oh, I look up, and he's lost in a cloak snapping in the wind, and he has no head. At least not on his shoulders. It's there in his hand, and he throws it, crack, hits me in the back, knocks me down into the ditch right below that bridge over there by the Bacantico. I looks up, and then I think I'm gonna see him going over the bridge. No, I see him flying up through the air, all his bones glowing a ghastly green. Boom! There's a clap of thunder, and he vanishes into the night. But even though he disappeared, I'm here to tell you, as I'm here, in 2 feet, that ghost, that Headless Horseman, he's still out there. Whew. He's out there. Whew. Well, that was quite a story, Brower. Up steps Brom Bones. I too know what it's like to encounter the Headless Horseman. Now, I was coming out of the Sparta Tavern up the road a piece. It was late. I looked through the mist. I perceived that headless goblin. And I knew he'd be wanting for my head. But I was on Daredevil, and I thinks I've got a chance to get away if I race him. I calls a bowl of punch to the first one to cross the bridge by the old Dutch church. And the race, by gosh, was on. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Ha, ha, ha! Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. The goblin rider takes off. Little jolts of lightning coming out from its hooves, and there's flares of flame coming from its nostrils. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And somewhere, somehow, it's letting out an unearthly screech. I'm falling behind, and I'm hitting Daredevil. Ha, ha, ha! And my horse is running like it's never run before, but I can't keep up. And then he gets to the bridge. I thought it was a goner, but whoa! He reins in his terrible mount, and ba-room, 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 I slip by on Daredevil. I gets to the other side. I turns to him. I'm about to say, "Yo me a bowl of punch," when I see the goblin's bones glowing a ghastly green. He rises up. There's that clap of thunder. Ba-boom! And he vanishes. You see, the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow will not cross that bridge by the old Dutch church cemetery. Oh! Well, Ichabod Crane gives quite the shriek, causing Baltus Van Tassel
to wake from his snooze and say, "Oh, well, everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you for enjoying my hospitality. Good night, we'll do it all again next year. Good night." And for once, the gloomy atmospheric airs of Sleepy Hollow filled with merry laughter. Oh, but you know who was merriest of all? Ichabod Crane. He goes back to Katrina's window like some countrified Romeo. Oh. I wish I could tell you what there was said. I wasn't there to witness. Suffice it to say, the interview went not well for Ichabod Crane. How could it have been Katrina Van Tassel danced with Ichabod Crane to make Brown Bones jealous? Now, I won't pretend to understand the ways and whims of women, but do you ladies ever do things like that? Ah, I hear some knowing laughter. Well, whate'er it was, Ichabod Crane returned to Gunpowder looking as melancholy as was the night. And again, the ghostly tales crowding into his consciousness conspired with nature to haunt. Woo! What was that? 'Twas a lone hound baying from the other side of the Tappan Zee. Woo, 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 woo. The goblin call. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill. Are the ghosts on the rise? And then, when two bare branches rubbed together, I love it. I love it. Woman in white, pray thee, I am not your beloved. Mine won't have me. Be gone, be gone. What was that? What was that? It was a startled flock of birds. It put Ichabod Crane, however, in the mind of the headless horseman returning from a scouring. Again, to ward off these spirits, he practiced the ancient tradition of lifting his voice in song, but alas, his tongue, through abject fear, cleaved to the roof of his mouth. He couldn't utter a staver. But his attempt at singing so startled Gunpowder. Brum, 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 brum. No, you crazed horse! Not over there! Not into Wildy Swamp! He broke right off the post road and headed directly into Wildy Swamp, a place so haunted Ichabod Crane's schoolboys would not go in there by daytime, let alone at night. And there he was, beneath the twisted tulip tree, associated with the tragical ghost of Major John Andre. No, no, lay not an icy hand upon me! Gunpowder! Brum, brum. Oh, gunpowder, gunpowder at last! Oh, fool thing, stop, stop! Whoa! There's spirits about. Oh, perhaps we've eluded them. Gunpowder. Plump, 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 plump. Huh? Plump, 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 plump. Huh? Ichabod detected the plashy tramp of another traveler. Through the thicket, he couldn't quite make out who it was, so he calls. Who's there? Who's there? Where it was, stubbornly refused to answer. Oh, we'll leave that sullen one behind. Gunpowder, come on. But the other rider, plump, 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 kept pace. All right, let's slow down, Gunpowder. Whoa, whoa, let him pass, let him pass. We'll go ahead. Plump, 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 plump. In this cat and mouse way, the two riders wended their way through Wildy Swamp. At length, they returned to the old post road. Aided by a luminous moon, Ichabod Crane finally could see fully his fellow traveler. Yea, he rode a monstrous horse, and the rider sat swallowed in a snapping cape. Huge himself, misshapen and diabolical. Imagine the schoolmaster's horror when he looked to see the face of the other rider and found he had no head. Imagine the schoolmaster's deepening terror upon finding on the pommel of the saddle that glowering head. Sadler's horseman! Gunpowder! Run! Gunpowder! Ah, ah, ah! Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And the race was on. Goblin after schoolmaster. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Whoa! Ah! Ichabod Crane! Ha, ha, ha! Kicked and cudgeled. Gunpowder with such vigor. Snap! He broke the buckle on Hans von Ripper's good saddle. And floop! It slipped out from underneath the lanky schoolmaster. To be trampled by the goblin horse. Ah! Ichabod almost suffered the same fate. Ah! But he grabbed hold of Gunpowder's tail and climbed over the back and didn't stop until he got up to the neck. And then he squeezed so tight he almost popped out Gunpowder's lone good eye. And the goblin seemed to be gaining on him. He could detect a stench of sulfur. And then Gunpowder breaks off of the trail and begins to head toward the cemetery. No, Gunpowder, not into the cemetery! The goblin was gaining, but then Ichabod perceived something to give him hope. It took the form of this venerable old church. He remembered the tales of the night. If I can just make it to the bridge by the old Dutch church, I'm safe. Gunpowder! The old plow horse finally began to live up to its name, stretching his lanky form across the back of his horse. That horse darted right over the bridge. Ichabod, upon hearing the distinct sound of Gunpowder's hooves clattering over the little wooden bridge, thought, am I safe? He turned around to reassure himself that what he had heard in the tales was true. The goblin would not cross that bridge. But instead of finding the goblin in the act of disappearing, he caught the fiend rising up in its stirrups, horrid head in hand, readying to hurl it. And it did. Whoosh! Crack! The projectile encountered the cranium of Ichabod Crane and dashed him down to his doom. And the spirits dispersed into the sleepy hollow night and gloom. And morning bright, came to Sleepy Hollow. Why, now sloops began to skitter on the Tappan Zee, and autumn showed her most splendiferous splendors. The children, yay, had a holiday, no school. Hans van Ripper found Gunpowder grazing in the pasture as if nothing had happened. But when he went to find the saddle, where'd he put it? Where in blazes is my saddle? Ichabod Crane. Bump, 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 bump. Ichabod Crane, are you still asleep in there? Ichabod, kitch-a-clunk. Now, Ichabod Crane, oh. Where's my schoolmaster? Oh. Something happened last night. Well, to get answers, Hans van Ripper went down to the Tarrytown Tavern, and already there was talk. I heard something last night. Did you? Oh, yes, I did. I heard some screeching and galloping. Must have been the Headless Horseman. Did you hear anything last night?
More cheer.
More cheer? That's the only reason I'm here, because I heard the Headless Horseman. I know that's why you're here, too.
Someone gave a little report. My children came home. No school. No schoolmaster. Hans Van Ripper, you didn't see the schoolmaster, did you? No, I didn't. We better get down to the bridge. Well, they left the tavern, went over to the bridge, and found evidence of the night's encounter. Look! Look! Oh, to Katrina. Must have fell out of Ichabod's pocket here. Yeah, but where's the schoolmaster? Oh, looky, there's a sign of him. Ain't that his hat? Yeah, that's where his long snipe nose goes, right there. Right there. Oh, where's the schoolmaster? I don't know. I think I know. Look. Ain't that his brains? Brains? Are you sure? It kind of looks like pumpkin mash. Oh no, that ain't pumpkin mash. That's his brains. Then where's Ichabod Crane? Don't you see? Last night, the headless horseman came after him, brained him, and then dragged away his body. Must have brought it down to his lost grave. You mean Ichabod Crane is? Yeah, Ichabod Crane is. Shh, don't say it. Ichabod Crane never again was seen in Sleepy Hollow. But my friends, a few things happened after the disappearance. Hans Van Ripper was given the few meager possessions left behind by the schoolmaster, an old frock coat, a choir book, and a battered copy of Cotton Mather's History of Witchcraft in Old New England, which Van Ripper promptly consigned to the flames. And no children of mine is ever gonna learn again from no Yankee schoolmaster. That much he vowed. But when the tale was told, and it was told plenty about in Sleepy Hollow, whenever Brom Bones heard, he gave a knowing laugh. Pumpkin mash, was it? Or was it brains? Whatever it was, he laughed. And you know who it was who escorted Katrina Van Tassel right here for holy matrimony? Brom Bones. Oh, Brom, I like it. Mrs. Abraham Van Brunt. I like it too. Well, I'd like to leave you with this. When a few more years had passed, a drover came up from the city, and he made this report. He says, "Now listen, everyone. I had a little bit of trouble. Had to appear in the 10-pound court. Now, I'm looking around at those attorneys, and I see this one, lanky, with a long snipe of a nose, up there, and he's talking to the judge. I don't know what he was saying, but it looked like he was saying, 'Your Honor, the wind is blowing this way.' Whoosh. Oh no, going this way. Whoosh. Had to be Ichabod Crane. Had to be. And so, good friends, I present this to you. It's possible Ichabod Crane had suffered a fate worse than being chased by a headless goblin. And that is, he became a New York City lawyer. Oh, no. The sages of Sleepy Hollow still disagree, most contentiously, insisting Ichabod Crane got brained by the headless goblin. And now his ghost haunts where the schoolhouse once stood. And finally, before I ask you to stand and leave this distinguished church, beware. Reports still come in even upon these days of a galloping ghost seeking what it most emphatically wants. So as you leave, I beg of you, please hold on to your heads. And good friends, that is the legend of Sleepy Hollow.